All right. We've got quite a lot to cover today. A lot of exciting information, some interesting insights. Don't want to waste too much time because we do want to cover all of that. So let's go ahead and kick this off. I think it's going to be a very interesting session. First, just a quick reminder, this webinar is being recorded. That recording will be sent out by email to the attendees, so you will have access to this later as well. Today's webinar is called The Profitability Path of Automotive AI, and we'll focus on how the automotive industry can create sustainable profits with their AI-enabled systems. In this webinar, we'll be joined by experts from AWS, Cardome, SoundHound AI, and SBD Automotive. My name is Robert Fisher. I'll be the moderator of today's session. We'll start with a quick industry scene setting, and that'll be followed by brief presentations from each of our experts in the call. And then we'll have a speaker roundtable after that, where our experts will get to openly discuss some key questions facing the industry. And then finally, we'll take questions from the audience. At the top of your screen, you should have a Q&A button. Feel free to open that at any point during the call or during the webinar and enter your question there, and then we'll get to that at the end of this session. For those of you that aren't familiar with SBD Automotive, we're a global leader in automotive and mobility consulting. We help our clients navigate the constantly changing and complex world of transportation technologies and innovations. Our team of experts is really focused on the various emerging technologies, and we develop strategies and insights to improve our clients' KPIs, and while making transportation safer, more secure, more sustainable, and seamless. You can always find more info at sbdautomotive.com. So to start off with today's topic, I want to set the scene very, very lightly and then allow our experts to dive deeper into these different topics. The table that you see on the screen right now has a lot of logos on it. These logos are automotive companies, and it shows which AI model they have essentially adopted for their VPA. A VPA is virtual personal assistant, if you're not familiar with it. And you can see that most of the names you can think of, most of the automotive names you can think of are on that list. Not to mention a lot of the technology providers as well. And this is just one use case for AI. So the reason that I show this is not so that you can memorize which model names are attached to which OEMs and vice versa, but rather to show that the vast majority of OEMs have already chosen an AI model to use for their VPAs. And this is really just one use case. There's still plenty more AI use cases. And so really what we're showing here is that AI in automotive is nothing new. It's been around for several years now. We've gotten into some level of maturity with it. However, the other side of the coin is that making AI pay for itself is still very difficult. It's still a big challenge. And that's essentially the topic of today's webinar is how do we make AI pay for itself? How do we generate revenue and hopefully profit as well from these AI services? So looking beyond the VPA use case, you can see that there are many different use cases that have been enabled already in connected services, ADAS, EV and performance, and various other functions. It's almost 90% of OEMs that have adopted connected services with AI and ADAS with AI. Actually, in our database, BMW tops that list with 22 separate feature types that they've enabled with some sort of AI solution. So we'll also talk a little bit about how CapEx, or the development of the systems and implementation of the systems, is just a small part of the overall cost of AI, especially when it's cloud-based. So in today's webinar, we'll explore this issue in more detail, and you'll learn how to deploy AI-enabled features without completely destroying your budget. So today's experts are Stefano Marzani from AWS. Hi, Stefano. Danny Cherkassky from Cardome. Hi, Danny. Stas Matvienko from SoundHound AI. And Andy Q, my own colleague at SBD Automotive. Hi, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining today. We're looking forward to the insights that you bring. First, we're going to hear from Stefano, and he's the global leader of emerging technologies for automotive and manufacturing at AWS. I'll also give you a quick introduction to the other people, just so you know who they are, what they do. Danny is the CEO and co-founder of Cardome. He's a speech AI expert leading innovation in real-time edge-based voice technologies for complex environments. And then Stas is the VP of Monetization of SoundHound AI. He leads the development of agentic voice commerce platforms that enable seamless transactions through AI-driven interactions. Then Andy Q, as I mentioned, he's one of my colleagues. He specializes in AI as a senior manager at SBD, also specializes in security and 5G and other communication types. He helps SBD's automotive clients navigate these rapidly evolving technologies. So to start off with, we will go over to Stefano. Stefano, I know you've got quite a lot of different topics that you could talk about. In this particular one, we've only got 7 minutes for each of the speakers, so I do have to ask all speakers to try to stick to those 7 minutes if possible. And I believe you're going to tell us about some of the cost of automotive AI.
Yeah, that is correct. Thank you so much, Robert, for the introduction, and SBD team for having me to this very important topic. So, yes, I prepared a few slides. Of course, I'm bringing a cloud perspective, a cloud services company perspective. So that's why, in my opinion, the automotive flywheel runs on tokens, and I'll explain what does it mean. If you go to the next slide, please. I really like this blog post from my friend Agustin Friedel on LinkedIn, right? So he's talking about the squeeze the automotive OEM are into, and I think it's very related to the topic. What's this squeeze? You see there's money that is done by cloud platforms and application at the very top, and there's money done by, let's say, semiconductors, electronic players combined, right? What's in the middle, right? So, and especially who owns the middle layer in this? Who is making money out of it? The middle layer, just to be sure, and it's very important in order to enable that kind of monetization for agentic system. There's a missing dimension, in my opinion, in Agustin analysis. That is the integration difficulty. I'll come back to this because I think it's a key enabler to enable really these revenues coming from agentic application to automotive and mobility. I think we can distinguish content into sides. Surface content, as I call it, at the very top of this cloud services application diagram, where there's a API level, a high-level APIs already available, can ship today, like music, video, gaming, podcast, recommendation, geolocalized advertising, all this kind of thing. This is relatively easy to integrate. But there's deep content as well. That's ECU data, vehicle network data, OEM owned data that typically is in silos, a system outside the car. This is still very difficult to monetize to the supply chain and monetize in general because it's, let's say, it's very locked in. So we need to be aware that agentic and AI, and that's why we talk about AI-defined vehicle, are following an SDV, a software-defined vehicle, kind of implementation. And that transition is not yet completed by all OEMs. And by the way, this is reflected in your diagram, putting the Chinese OEM first, where the SDV transition has been implemented more effectively than the rest. To do that, still electronic consolidation, virtualization, and platform engineering are exercises that are the precondition to implement a proper agentic system that operates with full power inside the organization. And that's why, again, business case typically doesn't break at the idea layer. Many ideas, we talk about many ideas in OEMs and customers, but it breaks the integration layer, especially across the supply chain. If you go to the next slide, so it's not just problems. I think that the agents, in fact, are a big opportunity to solve this. IoT, if you remember this term, we discussed about connected car in the IoT perspective, connect your car, home devices, digital life, never happen, right? So that's the hard reality. Agents, we see a real potential to be that ultimate abstraction layer, acting really as a connective tissue between the cloud, the vehicle, user context, and other environments. There's a lot of value in there, right? So in trying really to put all this context at the service of a user, at the service of an organization. And in this context, when we talk about agents, I loved a Jensen keynote at the recent NVIDIA GTC. Tokens are the unit of that new agentic intelligence layer. And holistically speaking, in two sides, there are tokens that are consumed to generate revenues from end users. For example, hyper-personalized experiences. Think about the case like, hey, I noticed that you seem a little bit congested. Do you want me to turn the temperature up a notch here in the car and at home, right? So this syncs and pulls data from every single source. or in cost reduction. If you can go back to the previous slide, I think it's just moved too fast. And to really produce engineering efficiency. So, and this is a huge low-hanging fruit in the automation of what I call the engineering and the software development lifecycle automation. This is really the immediate value that can be generated by this. And code generation, I think it's a side effect for automotive, by the way. You see in my diagram that these tokens needs to be consumed by what? By agents. It's super important to have open standard way to build these agents and solid ways to productize them. Open standards in our terminology is a strengths agents, an open source way to create these agents, an agent core, a way to deploy them safely in cloud for ready for production. These are in a big loop context, right? So they act as a feature, but they act as a support as well for software engineering, for product engineering in general. That's what's represented in this diagram down here. If you go to the next slide, all of this is really necessary to implement what in Amazon we always define the flywheel. Token consumed, cost reduced, features that are developed with higher pace, revenue generated through experiences, subscription, or ads, geolocalized ads, more data, better models, better experiences, more engagement, more data. This is a flywheel that needs to be generated. And it's very, very evident that who owns the agentic control plane will own the cockpit and this kind of experience in 2035. This is super important because we have some very solid early signals, first of all, presented by the companies that are here in this panel, that are offering already services and revenue opportunity for the customers, but even for our experiences with customer through the demos, for example, the one we presented at CES with Alexa Custom Assistant, with Alexa Plus, and 3 strengths agent that were able to talk with the car, talk with the service agent, talk at a different level in order to provide the next level kind of service. And as well, customers that are reducing feature development, I'm not joking, from weeks to days, thanks to, for example, Kiro, our agentic IDE, right? And I never saw an activation like these days. All the customers are talking about this revolution coming in, and they are willing to engage on this revolution at a very cultural level. So a big message that I have, I think it's really experiment. This is the time for experimentation because the window is open. It's a fast transition. So it's really important to get to work very, very, very quickly on this. With a caveat, agentic introduced a new level of threat. You recently probably saw Cloud Mythos that has been, let's say, announced in private betas because it's so powerful that can easily exploit cybersecurity or create new cybersecurity risks. So it's very important to consider AI just not anymore as a tool, but a proper actor with trust, governance, and guardrail, both in production as well as a product feature. So that's the content I prepared for this first phase, and I'm more than happy to go deeper in any of that with the Q&A and the panel interaction. Thank you.
Great, Stefano. Thank you very much. That was really interesting. It gave us a really good understanding of the return on investment with tokens and also the attack surface expanding, like you said. That's something that I think the world is kind of waking up to just now. So it's very much a current event type of situation.
Yes, please.
Yes, so for anybody that has questions, please do put those in the Q&A box, and we'll get to those at the end of the session here. We do want to kind of kick off the first of our 3 polls. We'll have 3 of these across the webinar. The first question is, what percentage of your AI features do you think are actually profitable today? And you should have a window popping up on your screen that allows you to answer that. Your choices are less than 20%, 20 to 50%, more than 50%, or don't know, not sure. And if you're not in a situation where you're actually deploying AI features, then feel free to say, don't know, not sure. We'll give you about maybe another 10 seconds or so to answer that. You can see a lot of the answers coming in now. Okay, and then I'll just ask my colleague David to go ahead and close that poll. There we go. Okay. Took a little while to show up on my screen here, but it looks like the vast majority of people said less than 20% of the AI features are profitable in their business. We do have some don't knows, not sure's. Some are saying 20 to 50%, and nobody said more than 50%. So that's a very good underscoring, I think, of the problem that we are here to discuss today, is that we know there's value in AI. We know there's value in AI for our customers and our clients, but how do we actually make some money with that? Otherwise, our business doesn't go around. So we'll continue to talk about that today and hopefully find some good answers. All right. Next, we've got, oh, sorry, my screen just flashed on me. We've got Danny here from Cardome, and he's going to talk quite a bit today about AI voice assistants and how their systems at Cardome are interacting with the AI economy. Danny, please go ahead and take it away. Oh, I'm sorry. I think you're on mute.
It's good now.
There we go.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share my 2 cents on that topic, and I would like to use the next minutes to try to couple between experiences, usefulness, and monetization. Next slide, please. So usefulness and monetization are not separate problems. From my perspective, get the experience right and revenues will follow. Your users have been always willing to pay for things that improve their lives. The challenge then is getting it right. And right now, the dominant architectural approach is standing in the way. Cloud-dependent voice AI has three fundamental failures. First one, they are deaf and blind until you wake them up. Keeping the system continuously active is prohibitive from an energy, cost, and compute perspectives. So they sleep, and sleeping systems have zero awareness of what's happening around them. They carry no context into the conversation, which means every interaction starts from zero. Second, it breaks the rhythm of a natural conversation. Trust between speakers is built on cadence. Humans naturally pause just for 200 to 300 milliseconds between turns. Cloud-based models need 1 to 3 seconds to respond, to process and then respond. That gap isn't a minor inconvenience. It's a difference between a conversation and a transaction. It makes the system feel like a tool rather than a presence. The third one, it is the wrong architecture for a wrong job. There is a profound mismatch between the infrastructure being developed and the problems being solved. You don't need the multi-billion parameters cloud-based ChatGPT-4 to adjust the temperature of set the timer. Routing trigger requests through a heavyweight systems doesn't just waste the resources, it compounds every other failure. It's slower, more expensive, and less reliable than it needs to be. So the path forward isn't more cloud compute, it's about rethinking where the intelligence lies. Next slide, please. The fix, as we believe, isn't incremental. It requires a fundamental rethinking of where the intelligence lives inside the vehicles. The model worth mimicking the human brain. The brain doesn't route every decision through its most computationally expensive part. Catching a falling object or finishing a familiar sentence, those happens fast, below the threshold of deliberation. Complex reasoning, such as making difficult decisions or processing something unfamiliar, gets escalated to a slower and more processing-intensive part of the brain only when such is required. We believe that a well-designed AI architecture works the same way. A lightweight, always-on system runs locally in the car, handling fast and simple interactions without ever touching the cloud. The heavy-duty models, meaning the cloud LLM, is held in reserve for what actually demands it, a complex reasoning. You can call it System 1 and System 2, borrowed from the Kahneman model. The point isn't about the label, it's about the principle. match the cognitive load and the task to the cost of the processing tool. Next slide, please. So building a voice AI agent that is intuitive, helpful, and provides the information when we really need it, and not only when we ask for it, requires two breakthroughs. First, it needs spatial awareness. Instead of a simplistic flat microphone signals, next-generation architecture must utilize multidimensional soundscapes. By analyzing the three-dimensional reflection pattern within the cabin, the system assigns a unique acoustic fingerprint to every audio source. This fingerprint empowers the AI to isolate specific voices, listen to the entire cabin simultaneously, and pinpoint exactly on what matters. Second, it requires contextual intelligence. By running a lightweight cognition AI comprised of ASR and LLM on the edge, the vehicle can interpret context locally. It is instantly understand whatever the driver is issuing a direct command or just talking to the passenger. Only when a deep reasoning is required, the system does wake up the extensive cloud. Next slide, please. So substantial profit starts at the edge. It starts bringing the intelligence or moving the center of the mass of the intelligence from a cloud-based, I would say, a sleepy AI to an on the edge, always on, always listening, and fast responding models. That's what will bring value to the customers. That's what will create the right experience. And as I mentioned at the beginning, customers are willing to pay for the right experience that improving their lives. That's my 2 cents on that content.
Great, thanks a lot, Danny. That is really interesting. So the basic idea is that we can improve profitability by improving engagement, and we improve engagement by not using sleepy AIs, by using reactive, fast AI. Did I get that correctly?
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, very interesting. We'll be able to talk about that some more in the Q&A session. All right, that brings us to our next panel, or sorry, next poll, I should say. This is going to ask about zombie features. So if you're not familiar with the term, a zombie feature is basically an automotive feature that is not being used. It may cost a lot of money to install it and to design it and get it in the car, but the customers either don't know it's there or they don't find much value in it, so they don't use it. So we've listed out 4 different features here that we think can often be seen as zombie features, and just wanted to get your opinion. What is the biggest tech zombie feature in cars today? And you'll have a choice of in-car voice assistant, gesture control, AI-generated cabin ambiance, or augmented reality navigation. So if you could, we'll give you about 15 seconds to select a choice there. Okay, I think we've got most of the answers submitted. Dave, if you want to close that poll. And it looks like gesture control is winning by a long shot. And that's actually my choice as well. I've used gesture control a few times and decided it's not for me. Maybe somebody else enjoys it. But yeah, very interesting. We know that quite a lot of money has been spent on gesture control from various manufacturers and tier ones to get that technology working, but it's not what the customers necessarily wanted. So yeah, really interesting. I think we'll have a little more discussion about that in Andy's section coming up in a few minutes here. But next, switch the slides here. There we go. Next, we're going to have a session from Stas, and he'll be talking to us about how to monetize automotive AI features. Go ahead, Stas.
Hello, guys. Thank you very much for having me. I'm leading the voice commerce platform at SoundHound, and I want to share our path on how we achieved what we achieved, how we've done it because I believe it's very important to this topic. And we actually right now in the market allowing OEMs to capitalize and make money on a lot of things that helps customers to get better convenience while driving, and not just driving, maybe also watching TVs, etc. I believe we can go to the next slide right away. I think most important point here is that you already did poll about the profitability of voice assistants, and it seems like most of those are non-profitable. And from my experience, I can tell you for sure that less than 1% of OEMs actually making any money. Actually, zero of them making any money. And this is mostly because AI assistants, they actually answer questions, but agents complete transactions. This is the major difference. And this is why we see this major shift from voice assistants, passive voice assistants, to AI agentic assistants. And while passive assistants can help you to, let's say some information, maybe turn on the light, turn off the light, open the window, etc. However, they will not be able to help you to make money. They actually are the ones who spending your money, because it's still using your tokens. With agentic AI, I believe SoundHound kind of jumped on this train with a unique position, because SoundHound already had a lot of brands, consumer brands specifically, on the platform that SoundHound been powering for 20 years to help serve customers when they want to order drive-through or when they speaking with some other businesses on the phone. So the core feature of the voice commerce platform is actually a commerce layer that allows agents to transact and act on behalf of the drivers or users of the OEMs. This is actually allows us to come to finally to this future where we can see a car helping you to order your coffee on the way that you usually order. And actually, you don't even need to say that. The car remembers that when you navigate home or when you navigate to the work, it actually will suggest you, how about we'll place the order for your regular coffee at Black's Coffee. And it's really exciting. And SoundHound currently expanding, actually already expanded to a lot of other verticals other than food ordering. It also powering table reservations, parking, events, and a lot of other interesting areas. And now you can see a new level of convenience where you just go into a restaurant where you just reserve the table through the voice with the car. And at the same time, car can find you parking nearby because it's a busy hour, and the smart car knows that, and it will provide you this convenience with the goal to make your life easier and better. But at the same time, with this small kind of help, it also generated 2 transactions and made money for the OEM. So this is really exciting. Let's move forward to the next slide here. I want to also share a little bit exactly on a few options, kind of a few most important things that we discovered while working with OEMs and consumer brands on how actually we can generate money. Of course, they are all starting from transactions. This is the core. If you don't own transactions or you don't do transactions, you don't make money with AI. Customers are now moving from subscriptions. They go directly into pay for the benefit that you deliver to me. So with per transaction, we allow OEMs to make money on the convenience fees that they charge to the users, because users already get used to pay cents or $1 for, let's say, coffee order. For each order, we know we have those convenience fees. So it's already a general adoption on the public, and we have no issues on extending this to the OEMs. Why not? Because it's real added convenience. At the same time, you can also tap into transaction/commission that you can make from the restaurant or the brand that you help to facilitate this transaction and bring the client to. There's also a partner-funded discovery, and here it's very interesting. You might think it's ads, but actually it's not ads. But you can charge brands for ads here. So here's an example for you. If you looking to order Black's coffee, for example, right? Then the system will probably charge restaurant really small fee just to deliver them the order, because it was not incremental order. It was non-incremental order because they specifically asked for that coffee brand. However, most of the people they don't know what actually happening on the road. They actually want to see what coffee shops available on my way. Just recommend me if you are what actually is the nearest one. I don't know. In that case, AI system will actually tell the not featured answer or sponsored answer. It will tell the direct right brand that is on the way and the nearest one. However, the car itself brought that customer to that restaurant. So now we're talking about incremental orders that restaurants are willing to pay extra dollars. Here we go, another revenue channel. And when you actually making your order through voice, in the end, AI assistant, agentic AI assistant understands intent. It understands where you're going, what was the conversation before, and maybe the kids sitting nearby. So it can also upsell you and offer something that you forgot to add or would be happy to get within your environment. So here we also have upsell that brands also happy to pay extra dollar for. And all this easily must be shared with OEMs. This is entirely where SoundHound is currently focusing on with this solution, to help OEMs to move from hardware margins into the lifetime value of the car, and it's not connected to hardware. Let's go to the next slide. I want to finish with sharing direct experience from us. We've been doing this for, like, our department been doing this for over than 2 years. We presented it at CES 2025 and then followed in CES 2026. And we already have experience by launching this with a number of OEMs. Currently, they are in pilot stage, and we will see news later this year with a number of OEMs actually launching this public. And the biggest note that we noticed, first of all, they are not actually ready to launch anything agentic. They're still figuring out their strategy there. And first recommendation for them is the only long-term strategy here is to get architecture right that will support agentic kind of agentic AI, and will allow them to evolve without significant changes on the head units. With that, we actually built a fake environment that actually can fit any car, let's say AAOS or something like that, or Android or Linux, whatever they have right now in their cars. So we created an environment that they can quickly put into their car or any device, and without any work, they can try it, go drive the car, send coffee order, complete the transaction, come back, and then discuss whether they're interested to integrate it further without investing much of the resources. And then most of them, of course, all of them decide to integrate. Then they run smart pilots, because we allow them to control which cars, where, which drivers have access to this feature, and they see all the details on how exactly they want to implement, thanks to pilots and thanks to gradual rollouts, and they actually getting into proper feedback from users, and that allows them then to have a successful scale further down the road. And this is not about months or 5 months or 6 or like 1 year of the transition. This is actually, this takes years, and whoever starts now actually will win most of the customer convenience, I believe. That's it. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Stas, and right on time too. That's a really interesting look at how OEMs can actually integrate monetizable features. Yeah, I appreciate that. All right, that's going to bring us to our final poll. Try to do this one fairly quickly because we are running a bit behind time. So this one is basically asking you if you know the cost per user of your AI features. So David's going to pop that window up here, and then you get to answer, yes, we know precisely, we track it, or roughly, we have estimates, or no, we've never calculated it. And then finally, what is cost per user? If again, if you're not in a company that's actually deploying these things, feel free to not answer the question. But if you do have experience deploying these features, we'd love to know what you think. Give you just a few more seconds here to submit your answer. All right, David, let's go ahead and close that poll. So it looks like the majority of respondents said, no, we've never calculated it. And that's something that Andy and I have been talking about in the past as well, that a lot of times companies will deploy a feature without having the economics of that feature figured out ahead of time. And it's certainly something that's plaguing the AI industry at large right now. So it'll be really interesting to see when Andy's about to talk here, what he has to say about the cost of AI and how that can be calculated. Andy, you've got quite a few different topics in your segment. As we mentioned, we're a little bit behind, so I'm going to stop talking and turn it over to you immediately.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. It's a great opportunity here, and I think it's also a fascinating topic. We can collect different insight from industry. So thanks to the three guest speakers, I think that's a three great, terrific perspective for, especially Stefan on the token flywheel driving the new economics, and Danny on why sustainable profit has to start at the edge. And I do like the stars on why commerce agents are actually what actually earn money. I want to close this segment by zooming out and answer one key questions. Why is AI monetization so hard for automotive? And what should we do about it? So let me start with a very bold statement that sounds obvious. The AI monetization challenge in automotive is not a tech problem. It's a P&L problem, and most of the industry hasn't admitted that yet. And here's why. For 40 years, we built software the way we build hardware. You spend the money once up front. Before SOP, you ship the car. So the cost was locked in. CapEx is predictable, boring, but easy to finance. However, generative AI broke the model overnight. Now, every time a user talks to in-car assistant, every time the agent works through a multi-step task, your cloud meter is running. That is not CapEx anymore. That is OpEx every day, forever. And here's the trap. The more successful your feature, the more it costs you. Scale just doesn't reward you and it punishes you. And here's what we have seen in the field. Some OEMs are starting to build their first version of measurement, internal dashboard that map cloud spend against feature level usage. It's earlier, imperfect, but it's a start. The rest are still flying with one instrument, the aggregate cloud bill. And you cannot manage what you cannot see. So three consequences are playing out right now. First, the profitability gap. OEMs deployed AI to compete with Apple and Google, but consumer electronic books doesn't fit a vehicle. You launch a great feature, then watch it scale your losses, not your revenue. Second, the zombie feature risk. Without real data on usage and willingness to pay, OEM end up with cabin full of AI features that looked great in the press release, but have less than 5% data use. Those are not features. They are hidden liabilities sitting on your P&L. And third, the one that should keep every CFO up at night, the 2026 multiply, which is agentic AI. It is moving us from passive response to proactive execution. Multi-step reasoning, tool calling, persistent memory, whatever inference cost you have today, you have to plan for 5 to 10 times that next year. So here's a diagnosis. AI is not a feature you'll ship. It's a subscription you sign on behalf of your customer for the life of the vehicle. Next slide, please. So once you accept that, the next question is quite obvious. Which AI feature deserves investment? Which to keep free and which to kill? That's where this framework comes in. At SBD, we sort every AI feature into one of 4 boxes. 2 simple questions on the axis. Will user actually pay for it? And can we deliver it profitably? There are 4 answers with 4 different strategies. Top right, heroes, high desirability, healthy unit economics. Think real-time AI navigation that beats what's on your phone for a road tripping family. Users will pay for it. The math works, so double down. Top left, utilities. Users love them, but they will not pay extra for them. Predictive maintenance alerts are a classical example. So don't try to monetize these directly, make them standard, and let them carry your brand. Bottom right, zombies. This is a dangerous one. High cloud costs, low engagement. They look productive in a slide deck, but they bleed margin every single day. So every dollar you feed from a zombie is a dollar you can spend on the hero. So you have to kill them, cut them down, but stop pretending they are working. Bottom left, garages. These features actively make customer angry. The voice assistant that mishear a name 3 times in a row. Each bad interaction doesn't just fail to earn money. It kills willingness to pay for every other AI feature in the car. So we have to fix them now or put them out. Here's a hard truth from our research. When we run this with OEMs, the typical AI portfolio is about less than 10% heroes and 40 to 60% zombie and garages. So the biggest opportunity in automotive AI right now is not building more features. It's having the discipline to kill the wrong ones. Next slide, please.
And Andy, if we could wrap up in about 1 minute, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. So which brings me to the last slide. So the shift the industry needs to make is really thinking in vehicle margin. One number locked in at SOP to think in feature lifecycle margin. Every AI feature has its own little P&L and somebody needs to own it. So at SBD, we use a triangulation model, 3 lenses. One cost is just not the chip ball, the real number, like the inference cost per query, retraining cycles, data pipeline, revenue, not just the subscription dollar, indirect value too. Consumer engagement, not the press release, daily active use, willingness to pay by region, whether users see this feature as a hero they will pay for or as a hygiene they expect for free. So the interaction of all 3, we call it a profitability zone. That's where your investment dollar belong. Everything outside it is either a brand play or a zombie or a future write-down. And here's the good news. The data you need already exists inside your own company. It's not just in one place and nobody owns put it together. Thank you. That's my sharing. Back to you,
Great.
Robert.
Thank you very much, Andy. That's very interesting and very well presented. We now have some time for the speaker roundtable. And as I mentioned, we are running a bit behind, so we may not get to all the questions that we'd hoped to pose to the panelists. But let's go ahead and start off with the first topic here. And this is basically going to be kind of a question for Stefano and Stas, I think. 2026 is the year of agentic AI. So what does agentic AI mean for automotive AI monetization and the associated costs?
Can start on that. I'd say a lot. So I think it's really existential in a way. and an opportunity. As I was saying, I think I never saw 30 years of career in automotive. I never saw an activation like this one working with OEM, traditional brand startups, doesn't matter, on integrating and implementing agentic system in their practices, procedures, and product. It's a fantastic moment for the industry. The most exciting moment I lived in the past 30 years, I can tell you that, since the introduction of maybe digital displays and the iPhone in cabins, maybe. So we can't lose this opportunity. It means a lot, a lot. So, and that's super important. I want to stress out a point. This really it's kind of such a trend. I think you should add an element in your quadrant that is agentic is transforming the product. It's not just a feature or something that you add. I really like the interview that one of the VPs of BMW released just this week, and she says the connected vehicle is evolving and the car is becoming a true digital personality. I think that tells a lot, right? It tells a lot about what we discussed today and relays the opportunity. So I want to give Stas an idea to give him the word, right? I don't want necessarily a car that suggests me the coffee maker that pays the most ad. I'd like a car that suggests the coffee I'd love to go and consume. So I think this is the opportunity that we have, a car that really knows me, a car that is able to assist with all these services, with all this digital infrastructure. Being cognizant, that's not just the OEMs, it's the supply chain that needs to be moved to do that. And the OEM has that kind of responsibility, first of all.
Stas, go ahead. How would you respond?
Can probably just wrap up. Yeah, really good. Thank you, Stefano. This is so agentic AI is from one side represents a lot of it's enabling a lot of new use cases and convenience for the customer. But at the same time, each kind of AI action actually costs money to the OEM, and somebody needs to cover those, of course. And we actually been working on this problem. To kind of target this specifically by not introducing and pushing something that AI can over recommend from something that it would recommend without any payments. We actually build a platform where AI would recommend you the best thing that it would recommend you anyway, depends on your personality or intent, whatever. However, we still need to make sure that it's profitable. So we are inviting brands to participate there. And if they simply want to be there and they want to be on the platform, they have to chip in to that. So it's not recommend you something that is paid for by brands or somebody makes money. It's actually it's a must for this in kind of ecosystem to exist, and we believe this is the only way here to make everybody happy.
Okay, great. That very good answers to that. We do have a few questions from the audience coming in and a couple of pre-submitted ones as well. I'm going to switch over to one of the pre-submitted ones that I think might be interesting for Andy and Danny. This is about agentic AI safety. The question is, when AI proactively executes tasks like booking, purchasing, routing, how do we ensure safety and control? Who is actually liable? Andy, do you want to start off?
Yes, sure, of course. I think from technical perspective, the common way to do that is basically run everything that you can run on the edge. But I think for agentic AI, it's really a dilemma because you still have to leverage the frontier model that you have to run in a cloud side at this moment. So I personally feel from technical perspective, a good infrastructure in the orchestration layer or a good AI framework, we call it a middle layer, is so essential for most of the OEM when they want to launch this kind of agentic architecture. Yeah, so it does require a lot of architecture design. Yeah, so that's from technical point of view. But in the meantime, we also at SBD, we see this is a great opportunity actually for most of OEM. If we can do these things well, like what Apple did. Apple is slowly trying to promote or release their AI feature on the device. And they are approaching a similar architecture as well. So if OEM can really manage that well, I think it would be a great opportunity for the OEM to add more AI feature on top of that. I would be very happy to hear the opinion from Danny.
Well, I completely agree with the, we have to validate, we have to structure the agents in the right architecture, and then we have to validate, that they are working optimally, or we have to limit them in a certain sense to limit their action. On the other hand, it's also a matter of education. If you look on the agent, on an AI agent and you compare it to a human assistant. Yeah, human assistant can do a mistake, can order a wrong coffee for you, or screw up on a task. The same can happen to an AI agent, and up to a certain extent, we have to learn to live with it. So once we're giving up on, we're giving those agents the flexibility to help us, or to a certain extent to control our lives, mistakes will happen.
And I imagine there'll be a lot of regulation around that as well in various jurisdictions. Yeah, very interesting. Let's move on to another question here. Let's see here. This one is from Bonzi in the audience. OEMs are accelerating SDV and AI integration under commercial pressure. That's quite a long question, so I'll shorten it a bit. While regulation remains process-driven, not implementation complete, all due to AI-driven development. Let's see, the Jeep Cherokee hack is what they're bringing up as an example that can translate into margin compression and profit volatility if system robustness doesn't scale with complexity that scales each passing moment in tech. So I think the overall question here is about how do we see profitability scaling over time with these new types of technologies? Because there will be vulnerabilities, there will be increased attack surfaces. Will profitability continue to scale, or is this something that will eventually not be a profit driver for OEMs? That's for anybody.
I can start. I think it's
Sure, please.
it's a totally legitimate question. Car is still a product that suffers from quality issue. Gotta be cognizant of that, right? So the number of recalls and the money spent in software-driven recalls every year is just impressive. It's poorly tested as a system, typically. And that's what I'm saying at the beginning of my slides. SDV transition is not completed yet. SDV transition, again, virtualization, platform engineering are necessary to provide that kind of increase of quality that is necessary to support the introduction of agentic first. Second, we worked a lot in the past 4 years, and this goes into the direction of what Danny was suggesting in a way. Mixed critical orchestration is extremely relevant. All the work that we did with SOF in the past 4 years, right? So separate very clearly what's safety related, that what is typically QA. What's safety related needs to be separated. That's what need to be happen, completely dependent on local services, no cloud connectivity. If a safety case requires real time, for example, that's extremely relevant. And those are really important, plus all the cybersecurity that we add. There's a risk and opportunity. Agents can help in both cases. That's what we are seeing, both in making the system the higher quality, as well as to, let's say, start to tackle and address cybersecurity threats.
Okay, very interesting. We are very rapidly coming to the end of our time here. I do want to try to get one additional question in there. And that one is about regulations. And I mentioned that previously, but the question is, why do you think NCAP and NHTSA are not regulating in-car AI yet? Again, open for anybody if you've got thoughts on it. Okay, Andy, since you're my colleague, I'm going to call on you. But why do you think we're not seeing regulations yet?
I think this is not a problem of auto industry. I think if you look at the globe, the AI regulation is really kind of behind the development of the AI industry. So we have seen many examples, but I would like to point out, like for US and China, they are actually realizing this problem already. So they are actually accelerating the regulations release, and we see more and more coming. I just personally feel that maybe it will be a little bit challenge for Europe because there are so many regulations in Europe about the GDPR, about privacy, that might probably potentially stop some of the AI feature development in Europe or release in Europe. But we do see great opportunities in US and China. Yeah, so I'm not sure if I'm answering these questions, but regulation is really something beyond our control at this minute.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, each jurisdiction is going to go at its own pace. Anybody else have any thoughts on that one? If not, then I think we'll need to move on to closing.
Very quickly on that, I think it's
Sure.
super important to have anyway some kind of reference. So AWS, for example, has this AWS responsible AI policy. Anthropic, for example, has this constitution for models. Those, in my opinion, are good references in any case and in any scenario.
Okay, yeah, very interesting. Yeah, it's good to have a touchstone or reference that we can look back at to kind of judge the rest of the industry against. Very good. All right, gentlemen, that brings us roughly to the end of our time. I know we had to rush a little bit there, but I think we covered some really interesting topics, got some great perspectives from all four of you, and some good questions from the audience. I do want to quickly give you 3 takeaways that I really hope everyone can see as being core messages from this session. The first one is AI is no longer a one-time investment. We talked about the large amount of OpEx that's required with many AI systems. Takeaway 2, the biggest opportunity isn't building more AI features. We need features that are useful and valued by customers, not just more features. And takeaway number 3, revenue won't come from subscriptions alone. We've talked about lots of different ways to monetize AI, and subscriptions are one option, but it's certainly not the only one. And that actually does bring us to the end of our session. I want to remind everybody to please keep an eye on your email inbox. Maybe check your spam folder as well. We'll be sending out an email with links to the recording and also links to the material that was shared today. If you'd like to get in touch with SBD or any of today's speakers, that information, the contact information will also be in that email. Please also go to our website. It's sbdautomotive.com, where you can sign up to receive free insights as well as connect with our experts. And you can learn about our upcoming webinars and other events as well. So finally, a big thank you to our 4 speakers today. I really appreciate being able to collaborate with you on this. And thank you to our audience for joining and for asking very thoughtful questions. I hope everybody has a really nice rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert.
Bye now.